With the summer 2025 anime season finally drawing to a close, we're approaching the time where we can look back and truly decide, were my first impression takes trash, or was I on the money? Obviously, hindsight is 2020, right? But when these shows have only a few episodes out and I'm basing opinions off that small amount of information, I'm bound to have some misses. Case in point, The Water Magician. Ugh. But is The Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity one of these shows that started off promising and turned out to be awful? No, it was quite the opposite actually. It started off great and stayed great. There hasn't been a ton of discourse regarding The Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity because, to my understanding, most people just really like this show. It seems to have overwhelmingly positive reviews, and after finishing out the season myself, I see why. This show skips all the annoying dialogue and guessing games that come along with the romance genre and gives us nothing but the good stuff. But before I delve too deep into why this show was good, let me give you a little recap of what Season 1 was all about. We open following our protagonist, Rintaro, an intimidating, underperforming high school student attending the notoriously awful all-boys Chidori High School, a public school known for its subpar student body made up of delinquents and underperformers. It's a school with a reputation you don't want to be associated with. Neighboring Chidori is a school on the other end of the spectrum, Kikyo High School, a private, prestigious all-girls institution that's notorious for having elite, high-performing, and wealthy students. Quite literally the polar opposite of our all-boys counterpart. These two schools are in their own little worlds and have a bitter rivalry. We immediately see two different pools of students at odds with each other, maintaining a general standoffish air. Kikyo students have a notably distinct hatred for Chidori students, whereas Chidori students just kind of match their energy, not taking the disrespect lying down. Whether this feud stems from general class differences or previous history between the two institutions is unclear, but it's a significant issue that poses multiple problems throughout our runtime. Our protagonist Rintaro doesn't really concern himself with any of this drama. He's just in his own little world most of the time, more worried about whether he's coming off as intimidating to others rather than what school someone goes to. In a stark contrast to his outward appearance, Rintaro's family owns and operates a cake shop. It's while Rintaro is helping at this cake shop that we initially encounter our second main character, and Rintaro's love interest, Karuko. Karuko is a high school student at Kikyo, the fancy all-girls school I mentioned earlier. After Karuko absolutely destroys a bunch of cakes, her and Rintaro lock eyes. Karuko then proceeds to run off out of embarrassment.
We've all been there. Am I right or am I right? Who else eating a bunch of cakes in public and then running away? Raise your hands, I know you're out there.
Rintaro misinterprets this as him scaring yet another person off, but the next day, Karuko shows back up at the cake shop, waiting there to explain herself and clarify any misunderstandings that may have arisen. She clarifies that her running away was out of embarrassment, not due to him being scary. She adds that she believes that Rintaro is a very kind-hearted person, that she's seen him at the shop various times before, and that he's always been very nice to her. An unlikely friendship is quickly formed between the two, establishing a dynamic that will grow and change throughout the season. As Karuko is walking to the train station after their clarifying conversation, she gets approached by a couple of creeps on the street. They immediately corner her and start talking all sorts of weird and gross nonsense. Luckily, Rintaro wasn't far behind and quickly inserts himself into the situation, diffusing any further action with his scary looks and reputation. This entire situation strengthens the newly formed bond between these two characters, showcasing how their two distinct personalities interact and even complement each other. Shortly after this situation, we're thrust into a different kind of drama, as Karuko is found waiting for Rintaro outside of the Chidori High School gate, in her Kikyo uniform. As we know, these schools have some very bad blood between them. This attempted meeting quickly devolves into an argument between the two separate student bodies, leading to some misunderstandings, stemming from these preconceived notions that have been hammered into our characters' heads. Chidori is bad, Kikyo is good. Later on, Karuko meets Rintaro at his family's bakery once again, apologizing for causing problems earlier that day, as she underestimated the scale of the beef between the two schools. Rintaro lets it slip that he thought she wouldn't want to see him anymore, as nothing good can come from associating with a Chidori student like him. Karuko quickly heads home after he makes these claims, upset that something as frivolous as this is causing a divide between them so early in their newly established friendship. This is when Rintaro's mom talks some sense into him. Rintaro himself was judging her at a glance. Just because she attends Kikyo, he assumed that she would harbor a deep resentment towards him, rather than judging her by the character she's been showcasing. He's been judging her without any depth, giving rumors and hearsay more value than actual interactions. He's been on the receiving end of this type of judgment his entire life and didn't realize how it seeped into his own views. But this is where A Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity differs from other shows. This plot point doesn't stew for another couple episodes. After Rintaro talks with his mom, he leaves early the next morning to wait outside of Kikyo for Karuko. They talk and he expresses his feelings and his shortcomings in their previous conversation. Their bond deepens even further, and now they've truly established a connection connection. Moving forward from this point, we really start to get into the heart of the story. It's a lot of small situations that build up the relationship between our two main characters. Rintaro and his friend group need to get their grades up so they can participate in the upcoming sports festival. This provides an opportunity to spotlight both Rintaro's and Karuko's respective friends during the little studying arc, eventually culminating in this broader cast of characters encountering each other, putting together that Rintaro and Karuko have been forming some type of bond in recent times. Bridging these two worlds is proving to be quite difficult, but as we progress through the series, these side characters effectively communicate what they're feeling. It doesn't just flow in naturally though. There has to be some build-up. Walls need to be broken down, but the payoff of these characters working through their issues and coming to a healthy conclusion is incredibly satisfying to watch. Eventually, the two separate friend groups put aside their differences and even start hanging out together, a complete 180 from the previous way things were. Our season starts to come to an end during the summer vacation.
So you know what that means. Obligatory romance anime beach episode!
But once again, the Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity breaks the mold. The beach episode doesn't just serve as a conduit to shove fan service down our throats. As a matter of fact, there's a distinct lack of fan service, which is incredibly refreshing. Rintaro and Karuko eventually find themselves alone on the beach, a perfect setting to gush about their feelings to each other. And they start to do just that, Rintaro going as far as to directly state that he likes Karuko. But before Karuko can respond, all of their friends return, without Karuko being able to properly give a response. How will things play out moving forward? Will Karuko and Rintaro finally be able to get together? I don't have the answers to these questions as of yet, but for now, that's a recap of the Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity Season 1.
Man, this show had me kicking my feet and giggling by the end.
What a well done, well paced, just wonderful watching experience. It has been such a welcome change of pace from the action-heavy summer season we've had thus far. This show is so far removed from the typical degeneracy that takes place in these romance shows, while still effectively portraying the chemistry between the two characters. Who would have thought that's even possible? Wow! It's just an overwhelmingly feel-good watch. There's a very heavy focus on character building, giving each distinct side character their respective time in the spotlight. Of course, some have more thoughtful arcs than others, but you really get a feel for everyone's personality by the end, making these heartfelt scenes feel even more impactful. Prior to starting the series, I had little to no expectations. I hadn't ever heard about this show before, and while people were raving about the source material, that happens for literally every show nowadays. But after episode 1, I could tell that this was something special. When our protagonists effectively communicated their thoughts and feelings with each other, my jaw hit the floor. That may seem like an incredibly low bar, but if you've watched popular romance anime before, you know that this is a rare occurrence. As a matter of fact, most of these shows thrive on situations that arise out of miscommunications and the general lack of clarity surrounding feelings. It's a very easy way to generate plot devices when you just have every character unaware of what's going on. Confusion and chaos can be an easy out in these types of stories. Despite that, the show is nothing but clarity. If there's a problem, it will be solved. Things don't linger. Everyone around our main protagonists are so supportive in their own ways. And even if they're initially misguided, everyone acts like a normal person, understanding that they can make mistakes and that they can apologize and work towards being better. The characters feel like people. Now, don't get me wrong, character traits are played up for sure, and there are definitely a lot of the theatrics that come along with any anime. But bottom line is, these characters feel like people. The amount of learning and growing that they do throughout the runtime is something I haven't seen done in any other 12-episode show ever. With the summer 2025 season finally coming to an end, it's no surprise that the Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity is at the top when it comes to viewer ratings. This anime started off so strong and maintained that momentum throughout the entirety of season 1. The animation is stellar, the pacing is perfect, and the character writing is fantastic. Look, if I had one anime to recommend from this season, it would be this show. It's an anime I don't think anyone interested in the romance genre should miss. So if you haven't seen it already, do yourself a favor and go check it out. You won't be disappointed. Hey everyone, I just want to say thank you if you made it this far into the video. I really appreciate it. Do you agree with my take that the Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity is one of the best shows of the season? Or do you think it doesn't stack up with the other contenders? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I read them all. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. And as always, have a great day.